Hello everyone, my name is quynh-anh. Hi everyone, I'm quynh-anh, and today we are going to be doing my January wrap-up. I had no idea that I was going to be even starting a booktube channel when I picked up my first book in January, but I ended up reading 12 books this month, and it kind of got me back into the reading world and back into booktube. So I want to start off this wrap-up with what used to be my favorite series. Yes, I did say used to be, because another series that I read this month kind of took the cake for that one. But the original favorite being Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now, Throne of Glass has received a lot of criticisms in the past, and a lot of it I agree with. There are diehard fans, and there are people who absolutely hate the novel. I personally really love Throne of Glass. I read the first novel when I was in 6th grade, and when Kingdom of Ash came out, I was a sophomore in high school. As the series got more complex, I grew older, and so I tracked along with it, and I really loved it. So this month, I reread Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, and I reread Kingdom of Ash. And these are some hefty books. I reread them cover to cover, and I have to say, I still love these novels. The characters, the way they make you feel, the way things are described, I just think that this book, if you have not read it, I think that you should really give it a try. Says there are people who don't like the book, there are people that like the book, and I don't know, I think it's an all-around really great read that my friends and I really enjoy. So a quick synopsis of the series. Throne of Glass follows Selena Sardothian, a renowned assassin. And so she is trapped in a slave camp, and in Throne of Glass we see her pulled out and thrown into this king's competition, which is basically a glorified way for him to find someone to do his dirty work. She is chosen by the crown prince, and he selects her as his champion. There are a lot of criticisms against the series, and I completely understand that, but it will remain one of my favorite series, and if you don't like it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. There are things over time as I reread and as I kind of grow older that I see a little bit more of that are problematic, but overall, I really enjoyed the series. And now, for the juicy part. What series replaced Throne of Glass as my favorite? That would have to be, I'm so excited, my hair is going wild. That would have to be the Shades of Magic series by B.E. Schwab. Let me just say, I've owned these two novels for about 4 years now. I bought it in my 7th to 8th grade booktube craze years, and I never really picked them up, but I did this month, and I read all 3 books, so these 2 books. This is A Darker Shade of Magic, A Gathering of Shadows, and then A Conjuring of Light. I read them all in 3 days. What can I say about them? So, A Darker Shade of Magic is a fantasy book set in a world where there are 4 Londons. There is Red London, which has magic, White London, which has magic, but it's fading, Grey London, which has no magic whatsoever, and then Black London. Magic corrupted everyone there, and now it is barren and forgotten. Very few people can travel in between the Londons. They're their own separate worlds, but our main character, Kell, is an Antari, which means that he does have that skill. So Kell is part of the royal family, and he works for them, but he also kind of has a side hustle, as most people do. We respect that. He's a smuggler, and so this story is set off when he smuggles the wrong thing from one London into another. I was not expecting this series to be that good. I've heard mixed things about V.E. Schwab's writing. This was my first novel. I'm gonna say I love her writing. I think she's so creative with her world building. It's so well fleshed out, and her characters are amazing. I think the aspect of magic is really what sold me on this book. There's a consequence for when you use your magic. It's not something that is overpowering. The romance in this book, I love it. It's slow burn, it's great. I'm gonna give this series 5 stars. I think that if you are a Throne of Glass fan, you will definitely like this, and coming from a perspective where I read Throne of Glass when I was much younger than I am now, and this is actually not YA, I believe it's adult fantasy, this book will really resonate with you. It has a lot of really similar things, like kind of like the games aspect. There is magic in here, but for me, I just felt a little bit more refined. And so that's why I actually think Shades of Magic is my favorite series as of the moment, or one of my favorite series. But I do think that it's a little bit more refined than Throne of Glass, and so one would be like a childhood favorite, and the other one will kind of be more of a young adult. Like, I am a young adult, but I am an adult fantasy. I don't know if that made sense. Basically, what I'm saying is I love this book, and if you have not picked it up and you like fantasy, or you're trying to get into fantasy, I think that these books would be great for you. So switching it up a little bit, I'm going to hop into some contemporary novels. The first contemporary novel that I read this month is Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. So Words in Deep Blue is about two characters, Rachel and Henry. They're childhood best friends, but at some point in time, Rachel moves away and things are kind of left unresolved between them. There's tension there, but neither character actually knows why. Rachel has one version of the past and Henry has another. And following some tragic events, Rachel moves back to her original hometown where she meets Henry again, and they kind of unravel everything that happened to them in the past. I would give Words in Deep Blue a 3.5 stars. It's not a very memorable book, but it is very emotional. I will say that this book did make me cry at the end, and there are some really precious moments. But overall, I did not really enjoy reading from either character's point of view, and I thought that the characters had dimension. That's probably as much as I will say about this book. It's really short, so if you are in the mood for a contemporary novel, there's nothing wrong with this one, but I wouldn't highly recommend it. Continuing on with the contemporary train, we have another reread, and this is Once and For All by Sarah Dessen. Once and For All follows Luna, and she is the daughter of a wedding planner. The caveat here is that because she sees so many weddings and so many divorces, she doesn't actually believe in love. This book, I'm gonna give a 4.5 stars. Like with most contemporary novels, I know what I'm looking for when I'm picking up the book. Well, I'm just looking for something cute that makes me feel warm and bubbly inside, where I like all of the characters, they're people I would want to be friends with, and I think that Once and For All really accomplishes that. I'm a huge fan of Sarah Dessen, I love her books, and so whenever I want just like a kind of cute romance pick-me-up, I will definitely gravitate towards her books. The next series is a series that I reread, and I am so glad that I did because I loved the series the first time that I read it, and rereading it was like all of the feels again. And so that series is the Anna and the French Kiss series by Stephanie Perkins. I read Anna and the French Kiss, Lola and the Boy Next Door, and then Isla and the Happily Ever After, and I can only say, it may be because I am a high school senior who has been trapped inside of my home for the past year because we believe in social distancing. But these books just hit so hard. There's nothing about these books that are particularly novel. It is your standard contemporary book, girl meets boy, girl falls in love with boy, and happily ever after. But the way that Stephanie Perkins writes, it's beautiful. It makes you feel like you are a high school student, or it makes you feel like you are in that relationship, like you are experiencing that crush, and it's phenomenal. They're really quick reads, and if you have not read this series, you should definitely give it a go. So the first book in the series is Anna and the French Kiss, and this is about Anna. She is a high school student. She goes to a boarding school in Paris. There she meets a great group of friends, and in that group of friends is a really cute boy, but it turns out that he has a girlfriend, and so they navigate those waters. Anna has always been my favorite book to reread, solely because I think that this is the book that makes you feel the butterflies that you're always looking for when you read a contemporary novel. I would give this book a 5 out of 5 because it's exactly what you want when you pick up this kind of novel. The second book in the series is Lola and the Boy Next Door, and I have to give a little confession that since I read this book in I think I read it freshman year or maybe 8th grade, I have never reread Lola and the Boy Next Door. So glad that I did this time. This book is it's amazing. It has the same kind of feels as Anna, but this book is a little bit more rebellious. I would give this book 5 stars. It was not a book that I could personally relate to, and I think that's what kind of put me off from rereading it for a long time. But now that I was back into the story and coming at it a little bit older, it had the same butterfly feelings that I felt with Anna, and I will definitely be rereading this one in the future. Now, the final book is Isla and the Happily Ever After. The most that I'm going to say about this book is it follows a character that is at the same boarding school in Paris as Anna and the French Kiss, and that things really come full circle in this book. I think that Isla is actually a book that is better if you know less going into it, so that's all I'm going to say. Unlike the other two, however, instead of 5 stars, I'm going to give Isla a 4 stars because there are a couple plot holes and there are a couple problems with this book. One of them being that it's not very plot driven at all, it is completely character driven, but I enjoyed it all the same. Quite frankly, this was one of the books that I really loved to reread, as I mentioned before. Looking at it with a critical eye, however, there are more problems with this book than Anna and Lola, and that's why I have to give it a 4 stars. But overall, I really loved rereading this series. I started off 2021 by reading Normal People by Sally Rooney. Connell is the popular boy, while Marianne is kind of your stereotypical, sticks to the wallflower kind of girl. And so in high school, they date secretly, and Connell is a little bit embarrassed to be dating Marianne. And then they both go to college. And so in college, the role is completely reversed, and Connell becomes the one who doesn't quite fit in, and Marianne is very popular. And so Normal People kind of follows them throughout their lives for over a number of years, and it documents how they flow in and out of each other's lives. And so this book in itself, I was really hoping that I would love, and I'd heard so many good things about it, but I'm gonna have to give it a 3 stars. As a high school student myself, perhaps it's just me and I just felt that this wouldn't really ever happen, but I personally did not like the way that they came in and out of each other's lives, and I didn't quite frankly like either character. I thought that they definitely had their own flaws, and people are flawed, but I found it really hard to root for either of them throughout the novel, and so I was a little bit disappointed. Okay, I think that just about wraps it up. If anyone actually has seen this or watched it, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you, and I hope that you stick around to hear about me ramble. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!